Greetings, and welcome to another edition of Dharma Dirt here at the Old Dog Zendo at Iron Mountain. There is a collection of koans that's not part of our Sanbo curriculum. Entangling Vines is a selection of 272 cases that was completed in Japan around 1689. The author is not known. Entangling Vines is somewhat unique among koan collections in that only the cases are presented. There are no commentaries, no verses. So there's no safety net, no helping hand. You are on your own. So this time, let's look at Entangling Vines, case 37. The case reads, Wuzu Fayan said, using the empty sky for paper, the sea for an inkwell, and Mount Sumeru for a brush, how would you write the words, the meaning of the patriarchs coming from the West? If any of you can do this, I will spread my sitting cloth and bow before you. Wuzu's dates are 1024 to 1104. That's well into the Song dynasty. He's come up with many tricky conundrums to bedevil his students, and us as well. He's the one who asked, the woman Chen and her spirit separated. Which is the true Chen, in case 35 of the Woman Guan? And also, the buffalo goes past a window. Head and all four legs go past. Why can't the tail pass as well? That's case 38. Wuzu came to Chan relatively late in life, age 35. Some of us can relate to that. After studying with various teachers, he became the Dharma heir of Baiyun Shoduan. His dates were 1024 to 1072. So Wuzu was almost an exact contemporary of his teacher, something I can relate to. He eventually settled at Mount Wuzu, which name means fifth patriarch, because the fifth patriarch, Hongren, had lived there. His most well-known heir was Yenwu Kechin, the editor and commentator of the Bianlu, or Blue Cliff Record. So Wuzu is a direct ancestor in the Linji school. There's a wonderful story that clearly shows that he remained open to teaching from any source. It goes like this. Wuzu addressed the monks, saying, yesterday when I went into town, I noticed the puppet show going on. I couldn't help going over there and taking a look. The puppet was really something to see. At first sight, it seemed to move its limbs, walk around, and sit down all on its own. But when you looked closer, you could see that there was someone behind the blue curtain. I couldn't help but call out, Sir, what's your name? The man replied to me, Honored priest, just watch the show. Why ask for names? Brethren, when I heard him say this, I didn't have a single word to say in reply, nor a single idea to espouse. Can any of you say anything in my place? Yesterday, that single instance of embarrassment has uprooted all my ideas now. Yes, just watch the show. Don't get hung up on names. The meaning of the patriarchs coming from the West. How many times have we heard that phrase or question? What is the meaning of the patriarchs, i.e. Bodhidharma, coming from the West? When asked that question, Zhao Zhou said, the oak tree in the front garden. Yunmen said, "Shit stick." But Wuzu is setting up an entirely different challenge. How would you write the words, the meaning of the patriarchs coming from the West, using the sky for paper, the ocean for ink, and Mount Sumeru for a brush? Recall that Mount Sumeru is the legendary peak at the center of the universe. So this sounds like some challenge for one of the legendary titans or demigods. However, if you try to answer his question by miming picking up a mountain, dropping it in the ocean, then trying to scrawl words on the sky, you're just a wild fox. Don't go there. So how shall we understand Wuzu? Someone else was also concerned with writing and painting. In the Shobogenzo, Dogen writes, "A Buddha of old once said, a picture of a rice cake never satisfies hunger." Some may refer to this statement about a rice cake by saying, he said what he did because engaging in the study of the scriptures and commentaries will not instill true wisdom. And there are others who may say, he spoke this way because he was trying to say that studying the scriptural texts on the three provisional vehicles and the one true vehicle is, moreover, not the path to enlightenment. In both instances, this is their engaging in judgmental thinking. That's the end of the quote. So, any of the conventional responses to a picture of a rice cake will not do. Does this apply to the meaning of the patriarchs coming from the West as well? Many have worked on this question and the responses by the likes of Zhao and Yunmen. But leaving aside these two old fellows, what would you say? Dogen goes on. What is called a picture of a rice cake includes the appearance of what is born of father and mother, as well as the appearance of what has not yet been born of father and mother. That is to say, that what we call a picture of a rice cake appears not just with dualistic thinking, but even prior to dualistic thinking, prior to any recognition. The picture is there before thought, before the mind has moved. And Dogen goes on. At the very moment when a rice cake is actually made by using rice or wheat flour, without doubt, it is the moment when the reality of it manifests, and the term or name for it is fulfilled. Do not explore through your training that a picture of a rice cake is something as trifling as our perception of the comings and goings of things. The colors we use in painting a rice cake will find their equivalents in the colors we use in painting a landscape. That is, in painting a landscape, we use cerulean blue and earthen red pigments. And in painting a picture of a rice cake, we use rice and wheat flour. Since in both cases, the projects and the planning are equivalent, the materials we are using are also equivalent. So in creating an actual rice cake, the flour and water are still just pigments. It is no different from painting a landscape. How can that be? We think of the rice cake as the work of our hands. But what about the landscape? What about what we see when we leave the house and see mountains, Sky, trees, cars, houses. Who does that painting? And does it really matter? The present moment is the present moment. And the universe, the landscape, the rice cake, along with our practice, unfolds as it will. But it is not volitional actions that are important here. It's the practice itself. There was a time recently when I experimented with hand-building clay pots. I used an inexpensive red clay, cone 6 for those who have done this sort of thing, and water. I worked with the usual tools, a wire, a sponge, a mat, and a small brush. What was I doing? Was I making a real pot or a painting of one? When you make a rice cake from rice flour and water, when you make bread with wheat flour, water, yeast, and salt, what are you doing really? What is really happening? When you stitch a raksu or a robe together or knit a scarf, what is happening really? Is there something real that you create separate from a concept in and of your mind? Separate from mind? And what of a landscape? Dogen says that the project of a rice cake is the same as the project of a landscape. The materials are equivalent. All are manifestations of the great reality, Buddha nature. Is there a you doing anything? Are you making a picture of a rice cake, a raksu, a robe, a pot? And what of yourself? Painting a landscape with pigments and brush creates a picture of a landscape. Mixing flour, water, is creating a picture of a rice cake. Is one only a picture and the other real? Here's Dogen again. A rice cake is also one manifestation of body and mind, be it blue, yellow, red, or white, or long, short, square, or round. Suddenly, a rice cake expands to all colors and all shapes and all sizes. These days, I and some friends are converting my garage into a zendo. What does that really mean? The painting of the garage is being repainted into a painting of a zendo. Is either or both a rice cake. We paint pictures of ourselves. What colors do we use? What medium, what textures? Do we paint with colors of greed and hate, envy, anger, resentment, desire? Do we paint the self with sloth and neglect? Or do we paint with colors of generosity, goodwill, forbearance, compassion? Does it really work to paint with such abstract notions? Which of all these abstractions are you clinging to? Or maybe we paint with the colors of the clouds and the sky, of earth, the wall or the floor in front of you, of trees and flowers, and the sounds of nearby traffic, of children laughing or crying. Do we paint with the textures of bread, earth, and stone, of fur and feathers, of wind and rain and snow, and the warm wetness of a dog's tongue? Dogen says, when painting a human, we make use of the 4 elements and the 5 skandhas. The human being is painted with the 4 elements and the 5 skandhas, but do we really know what that means? All earth, air, fire, and water, form, feeling, thought, volition, consciousness, all forms that have ever been seen, heard, felt, tasted, smelled, or touched, all feelings that have ever arisen, all thoughts and perceptions from time immemorial, all choices, good, bad, or indifferent, all modes of consciousness from infancy to old age. In other words, the universe, all dharmas, all that breathes and does not breathe. These are your materials, your ink, paper, and brush. You are completely free to use them as you wish to write the meaning of Bodhidharmas coming from the West. Any talk of mountains, oceans, and sky are only limitations. We don't have to be bound by them. And what about Buddha? Dogen again. When painting the Buddha, we not only make use of a clod of earth or mud, we also make use of his 33 auspicious characteristics, of a blade of grass, and of innumerable kalpas of training and practice. Because depicting the Buddha in a scroll painting has always been like this. All Buddhas are depicted Buddhas, and all depicted Buddhas are Buddhas. All depicted dharmas with a small d, or the Dharma, capital D. The painting is not one of reality. It is the only reality. How could it not be? Any other would not be seen, heard, felt, or even thought of. If you can allow all that to paint you, you are truly free. Not free from anything, but free as everything. That's true liberation. We have to discard such notions as emptiness, the void, nothing. They all bring up for me a vision of some vast cosmic construction site, just another illusion. I've sometimes used the term no-thingness, but even that is subject to doubt. In your practice, don't wait around for some kind of sensory special effect. What you see is what you see. Not seeing some kind of blankness or a vast empty crater, but things just as they are, empty of any self-nature and prior to any thought or recognition. That is, all are paintings. The picture is there before thought or any dualistic mind activity. This says something very important about what we call samadhi. There is, of course, absolute samadhi, in which everything disappears. Nothing arises, not even the awareness that nothing arises. There's no time, no space, no person. But that's a pretty rare occurrence. More common is the dropping of all thoughts and reaction, and every single thing is seen in a preternatural clarity, with no thoughts or opinions or judgments to get in the way. It is pure and unsullied perception of what? Of the painting. Everything is clear, but also empty. No hidden sides, interiors, or backs of things. Nothing behind the immediate here and now, nothing other. The picture of this moment is the reality of this moment. What else could it be? Dogen quotes a Buddha of old who said, "A picture of a rice cake can never satisfy hunger." Why? When has anything of this illusory, karmic world ever truly satisfied? the money, the new car, the new house, the next fun thing to do or to have or to accomplish. The self can never be truly satisfied. It can't, because it doesn't exist, and therefore desires are insatiable. There's always something more, something bigger and better. Do not rely on the painted rice cake to satisfy hunger. Just see it clearly. The painted rice cakes, the painted car, the painted job, the painted self, all transient, all illusion. Our world, all the mountains, rivers, trees, animals, birds, are this painting. And the painting is the thinnest possible veneer over a vast, unfathomable, unknowable mystery. It can be a bit frightening to acknowledge that this world, this universe, is nothing but a candle in the wind. It could end at any moment. So how do we live with this painted reality? Enjoy everything. Name nothing, attach to nothing, not even to non-attachment. So all this brings us back to Wuzu. Using the empty sky for paper, the sea for an inkwell, and Mount Sumeru for a brush. How would you write the words, the meaning of the patriarchs coming from the West? Your practice will paint your life. With the sky for paper, the ocean for ink, and Mount Sumeru for a brush. But if you understand the meaning of Bodhidharmas coming from the West, you will not need any special tools. You can let go of all notions of painting or writing, mountains, oceans, the sky, trees, flowers, 2x4s, sheetrock, birds, flower, water. All are tools. All are textures and pigments. You are free to use them as you will. You are free to manifest the patriarch's meaning as you will in your practice. Here's a verse. If you ask me about enlightenment, I can say only this: to see the world as it is and not recognize a single thing. Together with all beings, we realize the way.